Hey fellow hedgehogs, it's Brian, and today I'm going to give my thoughts on the 2005 video game Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, this is a controversial game, so my takes on the game may also be rather controversial. That said, let's get into it. First off, the game's most controversial feature, the weapons. Now, some of these are realistic looking weapons that don't seem to belong in a Sonic environment, but I think the game does a good job at not making them look too uncanny while letting these weapons still be useful. The weapons are divided into 6 categories: firearm, melee, cannons, lasers, lock-ons, and vacuums. The most useful ones are the firearms, the lasers, and the lock-ons, as these tend to automatically aim at close enemies. The game has other, not so useful categories of weapons that still have their own purposes. The firearms include both automatic and non-automatic guns from gun, the black arms, and egg pawns. A useful firearm is usually automatic and has 20 or more rounds. Notable examples include the heavy shot from black arms and the semi-auto rifle and Gatling gun from gun. These weapons have 30, 30, and 40 rounds respectively. The melee weapons only work in close range, but the ones from black arms deal good damage. These weapons include the black sword, the dark hammer, egg spear, survival knife, and various background objects across different stages. The background objects and survival knife are the least useful, but the black sword and dark hammer are good at dealing damage to multiple enemies nearby. I recommend the black sword as you'll see it the most often. Keep in mind that each melee weapon you pick up can only be used 6 times unless you pick up another of the same type. The lasers are really good ones. There's one gun laser and 2 black arms lasers. Each laser has 20 rounds, deals medium damage, and has medium range. These are very rare, but you'll want to hold on to them. Then there's the cannons. Not much to be said about these other than they work best in close range and can deal damage to multiple objects via explosions. The problem is that they only have 8 rounds max. So let's move on to the lock-ons. The 4-shot and 8-shot RPGs and the wide worm shooter are the best ones. These also tend to deal high amounts of damage. The last weapon category is the vacuum, and there are only 2 types in the entire game. One is the vacuum pod from the black arms, and the other is the egg vacuum, a special weapon you don't get until you complete one of the 2 endings in Lava Shelter. These weapons basically suck in objects like rings and boxes and small enemies, and sometimes spit them back out to be used as missiles. Now, onto the game's second most controversial feature, its morality system. This lets you basically choose a different mission to decide whether Shadow will use his powers for good, evil, or neither. A common complaint about this morality system is that it allows the game 10 different endings, and after all those are unlocked, you have a final story that makes at most one of those endings true. But I think the system is misunderstood. The different stages you go through and cutscenes you get all have some relevance to the story. The endings don't represent what Shadow is, but what he could be or could have done. I personally enjoy the fact that the story is so diverse that it has to be placed along multiple story paths, as it gives you a perspective on everything Shadow has gone through in his life and what he's been doing on his quest to regain his memory. And that brings us on to the story itself, so if you want to avoid spoilers, skip ahead to the gameplay. The story follows Shadow after the events of Sonic Adventure 2, having lost his memory after slamming hard onto Earth's surface after using the last of his power to help Sonic save Earth from the space colony Ark. Shadow has forgotten most of who he is, and Black Doom, the game's main antagonist, promises Shadow that if he gives him the Chaos Emeralds, Shadow will remember who he is. Over the story, Doom attempts to corrupt Shadow's mind with varying degrees of success and failure. Like Gerald did in Sonic Adventure 2's backstory, Doom is trying to use Shadow's memory of his promise to Maria to turn him against humanity, so that the Black Arms, Doom's race from the Black Comet, can take over Earth. By either helping the good guys or helping Doom and Eggman, Shadow starts finding out who he is, or who he could be, as Eggman and Doom attempt to tamper with his memories. After all 10 endings are unlocked, a series of cutscenes plays, where Shadow remembers who he is and the true promise he made to Maria and sets out to fulfill that promise by both going through the stage the last way and fighting Doom's final form, Devil Doom. After Doom is defeated, Shadow Chaos controls the Black Comet into space, where it is promptly obliterated by the Ark's Eclipse cannon as the humans and Shadow's friends celebrate. Now onto the gameplay itself. The game has plenty of fun gimmicks where Shadow can use both the abilities from Sonic Adventure 2 and the new Powers Chaos Blast and a special form of Chaos Control that either slows down time or lets Shadow skip large sections of levels. These powers are obtained by either destroying and wounding gun weapons and gun soldiers or from fighting the Black Arms and Eggman's mechs, respectively. Once either meter fills, Shadow will turn invincible, have unlimited ammo, and be able to use one of these two powers. Most enemies Shadow defeats will drop weapons that he can use to fight more enemies. There are also multiple boss fights against the Black Arms, Eggman, and Gun that the player can fight at various points in the story depending on path. The game's controls are a little slippery, but it's nothing too frustrating for me at least. The game has so much variety and things you can do that are almost always entertaining in one way or another. After you get A ranks in all 71 missions and boss fights, you unlock Expert Mode, which lets you play through all the stages in the game, including the last way, all in one go with a limited number of lives. Overall, I would recommend this game to you if you're a Sonic fan and a fan of shooting games as well. Personally, I fall into both of those categories, so this game is particularly enjoyable for me. The story is fulfilling once you have all the pieces of it, and the weapons you get at each ending are useful rewards to help you get better scores in other stages. Other Sonic fans obviously disagree with my opinions given, like I said at the beginning, and that's okay. This review is from my personal experience and my enjoyment of the game. Well, that's all there is for me to say. If you like this video and want to see more like it, be sure to press the like and subscribe buttons below. If you want to support my content, you can donate tips to me on my PayPal, which will be in the description along with my Discord server you can join to chat with me directly. And remember, fellow hedgehogs, stay safe and stay cool.